students who have been the beneficiaries of this. Reverend Sharpton, thank you for joining me on the record on today. And I know that you are going to be in Tallahassee this weekend addressing the continuous assault on civil rights by Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And there's going to be a sermon at Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, and then followed by a press conference to shed light on the systematic efforts that have been happening to undermine Black American rights. Can you talk about this path forward, what's going to be happening this weekend, and who you will be joined with?
Well, this weekend I'm going to Tallahassee, which is the state capital of Florida. And it also is the weekend of homecoming for FAMU. And I wanted to go when a lot of the students that are affected are coming for the homecoming. I'm preaching the morning sermon at Bethel, which is pastored by Reverend R.B. Holmes, who is the head of National Action Network's Tallahassee chapter. And then we're going to have a press conference. Ben Crump will be there, who happens also to be a member of that church, and others joining us to say two reasons that we're coming. One, DeSantis has been the centerpiece of having governors try and take Black history out of schools and to end the question of diversity, equity, and inclusion. In Tallahassee resides Ed Bloom, who has led that charge. He's the one that was behind the Supreme Court decision overturning affirmative action. He's the one that is the plaintiff in the lawsuit against the Fearless Fund, those two Black women that are giving money to Black-owned businesses that he's enjoying. He's the one now that has gone after the military for having diversity. And so we want to come right to his hometown and DeSantis' hometown to say that we're going to fight them every step of the way on behalf of Black people and inclusion, and that there's a student movement working with National Action Network on that, toward those ends.
You have called Florida the laboratory for the far-right campaign against Black America. Talk about how do you hope to mobilize and inspire the community, especially those students and faculty at Florida A&M?
I think that we mobilize them by saying that if we, in fact, do not stop them, and the experimental laboratory is Florida, if they get away with it in Florida, in terms of banning certain books, in terms of ending certain instructions on Black history, in terms of being against DEI, then it will go nationwide. And we need to stop it right where it is. For the voting rights issue in the 60s, Selma was the epic center. For public accommodations, Birmingham was the epic center. For the fight about DEI and affirmative action, Florida is the epic center. And if we stop it there, it will have national ramifications. How do we stop it? You make it an issue now and make everyone that runs next year, not only for president, but for the Senate and the Congress, they will have to take a position on this. And nationwide, we will vote for or against you based on whether you support DEI and whether you support Black history continuing and to be federally imposed on states that it must be part of the instructions and the curriculum.
You know, going to that campus and talking with those students, do you really believe that people understand what happened when the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action? And then the next move we see is happening in the business world, rollbacks of DEI departments and positions, and also headed by Bloom in many of these cases, telling corporations, there was a letter sent telling them that they are in violation when they have these quotas within their companies. This is going to dramatically affect students of color going into the workforce. They haven't even come out of college yet. And so this is going to have a drastic effect. Do you think that they really even understand that message?
No, I don't think they understand it, which is why we're going, because they need to have it broke down. So when it was a lawsuit they hear about of the Fearless Fund, they don't say, well, that affects me, but it does. So they need to understand, A, that you may be the last ones that dealt with a college education that was made available to some because of the question of affirmative action. And now HBCUs are going to have to bear the brunt of a lot of people that won't be getting in these schools. And those of you that are going to school, your options have been cut dramatically because many of you that was depending on a corporate job or a other means of a living has been drastically undercut because with DEI gone, there are no more diversity programs that will make sure that there's a certain amount of Blacks in a corporation or in a law firm or in a health facility. National Action Network, we go to companies and say, tell us your percentage of Black and brown employees. Well, they will say now, well, we can't tell you that because we're not allowed to count this against the law, which means they will have a degree, but they won't have a future with that degree or a limited future at best. And that will drive the nail through the wood. So they understand this is about you. And you've got to stand up and stop this. I have one grandchild. My daughter had a grandson that'll be 5 years old. He will grow up with less rights than she had. When she was growing up, we had affirmative action. We had women's right to choose. We had Black history in schools. When he will grow up, it'll be a much different America. And no one is really making people understand that.
It is. I'll just say this. First of all, I think it's brilliant even going to college campuses, especially during homecomings. We always talk about one of the biggest places to get Black community is in churches, but homecoming is definitely another. I want to switch topics and talk about there is a new Speaker of the House. After contentious battle, the fourth pick, and after ousting Kevin McCarthy, we have a new speaker, Mike Johnson, representative from Louisiana. And there was a headline. I was just reading some of the headlines after his win. And the Washington Post says it said, Mike Johnson is as dangerous as Jim Jordan. And the first line is, this is not an upgrade. It is Jordan in a more palpable package. And then the Politico went on to highlight 55 things that you need to know about this new speaker. When we talk about even that headline, Mike Johnson is as dangerous as Jim Jordan. How do you view the selection of this new speaker? Some say it's more of the same. Some say he's even more far right, that he's the ultra right of the MAGA wing.
Well, I read one columnist said that he is Jim Jordan with his jacket on and a smile, which means that he is only more palpable in his manners, but not in the manner in which he does politics. He led the House in not certifying the 2020 convention, which means that he was a leader in the insurrection of an election. And for him to now be third in line to the president, the way the Constitution is written, if for whatever reason the president is disabled and the vice president, the speaker becomes the president. A man that tried to overturn the actual government that he's third in line for now. This is at its best atrocious. And we must resist this. We must support Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats to fight them on every angle. They will fight all of the legislation that we are talking about from, look at, we in the middle of another mass shooting. We've had 600 mass shootings this year. This speaker will not support or probably won't even try to manipulate for it not to get to the floor about assault weapons ban, about background checks, about affirmative action, all of the things that we want voted on. You have to get through the speaker's office. This is as dangerous as it gets.
I think people may not be familiar, like you were talking about, a lot of his legal background. So, it's almost we see this low key demeanor, but I think people really need to dig into who he is. I mean, you talk about attacking all rights, whether it is LGBTQ rights, voting rights. And you said before he played a significant role in rallying support the Texas lawsuit that was aimed at overturning the 2020 election. Before even his career, he was associated with the Alliance of Defending Freedom. And you look at that track record, it is scary how far right he is. Even Matt Gaetz, right, who we know is one of the leaders of the NACA party, said then if you're not paying attention, you're not seeing where the shift of power is happening. Not to mention he has gained the support of Donald Trump in many ways. So as we see this happen, when we talk about the issues, especially facing Black America on the chopping block with this, what would you say the appeal is to those who are watching this? What are your words of action that need to then happen?
I think that we need to put our pressure, everybody watching, on their local congressman and congresswoman, and say that you must fight tooth and nail around these issues, from our concerns about DEI and affirmative action to health programs and all that's on the chopping block, and support women right to choose, LGBTQ rights, all the way across the board. And because everyone in the House of Representatives is up for re-election next year, this is the time to send your emails. This is the time to call them on the phone saying, I'm gravely concerned. So we put some backbone in the Democrats to stand up to this guy. The other thing is there's about 9 seats that the Republicans won the seat and Biden won the district, meaning we need to focus in those districts to put pressure on those Republicans who want to be reelected, that you're in a purple at best and maybe blue district, and you just got in there. We will take you out if you do not help tame your speaker, because they all voted for him. They didn't vote for Jim Jordan, but they voted for him. They need to feel the heat.
Absolutely. Lastly, I'll say, we're just several days, a couple of weeks away from a potential government shutdown. Who knows what's going to happen with these negotiations? And he's going to be at the head of the table as we talk about whether we'll see another shutdown or not, what's going to happen with spending. And some are concerned about whether or not with Johnson, I kind of feel like I already know the answer, whether he's going to be able to work to promote bipartisanship and maintain a checks and balance system within government. And if he goes that far to the right, how do you foresee this happening? We knew about the relationship with Representative Jeffries and also Kevin McCarthy. Actually, even though they didn't agree on many things, spoke well of each other. But with Johnson in office, how do you see that relationship tipping with Jeffries?
I think that Johnson will be cordial to Jeffries and then do nothing. Whereas they got McCarthy to make some agreements, I think he will not agree to anything. Because let's not forget, some are saying, well, as he now has power, he'll grow into it. They have this rule that one of them can get up and make a motion to get the speaker out, which is what got McCarthy out, Matt Gaetz. So he knows that, yes, he's sitting on the throne now with a gun cocked to his head, which is the far right, Matt Gaetz, them who put him there. Right. Which means even if he had some Damascus Road conversion, he knows that he will be outed as speaker.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Rev, for joining me on the record. Again, I look forward to talking with you and getting an update about what happens when you come back from Tallahassee and how the students received that message and the road forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless.